hang on, we haven't even done Hang On yet. Super Hang On is a 1987 game from Sega. You'll have seen it in the arcade, complete with the ride-on bike that usually kind of hung around the same area as Afterburner and Space Harrier and so on. Impressive game, looking at it under emulation here under MAME. A little bit fiddly to play on a standard joystick because it really needs those analog controls to get some subtlety into the steering, so it's just a little bit too twitchy trying to play this on keyboard. But it's essentially, if I said it was the Outrun on a bike, you would generally get the idea. Released in 1989 on the Sega Megadrive, this is a re-released version on a compilation. And the Megadrive version comes with arcade mode and original mode. We will look at original mode a little bit later on. Just like the arcade, you select where you want to race and select a tune as well. It's very similar to Outrun. Off we go on the Africa course. 7 stages on this, the easiest of the levels. Now the thing about Super Hang On is the game has a turbo feature. So when you reach 280 miles an hour, you can press a button and you'll get an extra 40 or so, kilometres per hour in speed. But be warned, if you do that on a corner, your bike will slip, and you really need to be used on a mild corners or straights. So you'll see, I hit something there. You'll see flames coming out the back. Clearly, it's cut down for the Mega Drive, and not cut down as some other games were when they were ported over. This is an entirely competent conversion, provided you're not running them head-to-head. It's not too noticeable, but perhaps this video is not a good comparison because, well, you've seen that original version first of all. Converted to the home systems by Electric Dreams. Start off on the Amiga. Loading screen by Saul. And a program by ZZKJ, who also did the Z80 versions as well. You can play it on the mouse or the joystick, and there are controls for sensitivity. So you might be hoping it looks a little bit like the Mega Drive version, but no, it does not. It's one of those early 16-bit conversions. It's smooth enough, but everything's a lot smaller, although it does give you a little bit more room on the roadway. And it's not as smooth as the Mega Drive version either. ST version. Nice tune. Loading screen by Saul again, so why didn't they just use the Amiga one or because this is more on brand than that Amiga loading screen, but hey ho. So again, we start off, I said it was 7 stages, it's 6 stages for beginner, sorry about that. I can't count, that's what it is, I can't count. So the ST looks the same as the Amiga, except the sound is extremely rough. It sounds like, remember the early days of emulators when they couldn't get the sound right? It sounds like that all of the time. Really rough and horrible. Over to the Amstrad CPC with something that could be described as music, but I'm not going to. What on earth? So off we go on the CPC, and what we have is clearly a specky port, although we have that split mode thing going on to give you a bit more colour up at the top. Chugs along. No need for those sprites to be 2 colours at all. But hey ho, it's a specky port, and it makes it. I believe there's a technique on the CPC where they can port specky stuff really quickly if they go with... Oh, fallen off. If they go with the 2 colours, because you can use one of the colours as transparent. Over on the specky where it looks the same, except you've suddenly got a splash of colour. Now you can turn this extra colouring off, and you might see why on later levels, because there can be quite a lot of colour clash with the roadside objects. But at least you get the choice, unlike Outrun Europa, which took all the colour out. If you saw those previews in, I think it was Your Sinclair, where they showed the game with lots of colour, then when it was released it wasn't, and it was found out they'd turned all the colour off in the code. So yeah, there's a bit of colour clash going on. It's a lot more responsive than the CPC version though. C64 version, not done by the same coding team as the Z80 or the ST and Amiga. It is a load in one stage at a time affair, so you select that when you start the game. On C64 you get a choice of 2 sets of tracks on one load. And we get the music when we're racing. And yeah, this is quite something, isn't it? The bikes move fairly smoothly towards you, but don't look at the roadside objects because it'll melt your brain as they chug past in comparison to the bikes. It's horrible to steer, it's horrible to look at. It's not Cisco Heat bad. It's not Cisco Heat bad. It's just not, I mean, how many times we've seen racing games like this in the 64, really? You can get past the opponents fairly easily, unlike the Spectrum and Amstrad CPC versions where you have to give them a wide berth. Back on the Megadrive, oh my, this is much of a relief, isn't it? And when you get to the end of stage 2, you get a nice colour change like Outrun. And the colour change happens just before the end of the stage. Quite frustrating if you just get to this colour change and then you're out of time. What spoils this for me on the Mega Drive is just these digital controls. Not as bad as playing it on MAME on a keyboard, but it just needs subtlety sometimes, and you just can't get it on digital controls, which the game's obviously designed for. Megatech gave the game 89%, and while we're looking at the other review scores as well, Crash 85%, CNVG 8 out of 10, gonna need some Wikipedia. Sinclair user 10 out of 10, Your Sinclair 8 out of 10. And Your Sinclair voted it the, I think it's 27th best game of all time in Stuart Campbell's list on the Spectrum. Yo! Crashes are spectacular. But I just got through there. And the thing is, it looks and feels like a Sega game. It's got that Sega font. It matches in with Space Harrier, Outrun, Afterburner for that look and feel of a Sega game. Back on the Amiga, and they have copied the font on these 16-bit versions, and I think on the Z80 versions as well, they've copied the font. It's always a nice touch when they do that. One of the gripes I've got though with the home versions is it's very easy to slide off the edge of the circuit. That's something that happens on the Mega Drive version, but not as easily on the earlier versions. Back on the C64, where we're being assaulted by this tune and the sound effects and this general game. It's just not very good. But I'm not feeling cheated by it. I'm not feeling cheated by it in terms of how the game plays. Which brings us onto the Amstrad and the Spectrum versions, and this is the CPC version. Which is just once you've played against the Spectrum version, you realise this is just one of those bad ports. Here we go, here's the Specky. And we do get colour change as we go into the new stage, and look at that, that looks really nice. However, there's a big problem with the Spectrum version. It's incredibly hard, for 2 reasons. Firstly, the other bikes. If they get close to you, you get a speed penalty. And you don't even have to be near them comparatively. You think you're passing them at a reasonable distance and actually you hit them. Secondly, if you slow down, they'll just hit you from behind. Which long-time viewers of this channel will know I absolutely hate games like that. Why would a car behind you just drive into you for no reason? They'd avoid you. But no, you'll just get hit. And then, we've seen there, cornering. It's just too harsh. You just have to slow down too much, which you don't need to do on the arcade or the Megadrive. We're back on the ST, which does suffer from the cornering thing because it's rather unforgiving when you go off as well. The Megadrive and arcade version, you get a fair bit of warning on the curb before you actually go off, but on these ZZKJ, whatever his name is, versions, you're just on the curb and then you're off the track. And it becomes a bit of a memory test because there's not lots of warning for the corners either. So when you've got a steep corner, really you've got to have memorised where it was. That said, the game is far more playable on the 16-bit versions with the controls turned on to the most sensitive setting. The default is medium sensitivity. I say turn it on to high sensitivity. Takes a little bit of time to get used to, but once you've got a hang of it, it makes the cornering easier. And I'm coming to the end of the Africa stage on the ST. There we go. Completed that. Now, I found that stage nearly impossible on medium sensitivity. And there's there's some people with glitches waving at me, and they're mirrored over and over again. Mega Drive version, let's go on to the junior stages, Asia. Not quite sure why the traffic lights are red, red, blue, but there you go. It's the thing that strikes me about this Mega Drive and the arcade version, and it's been bugging me, and it's these trees that got me thinking. And I suddenly realised, had the coders of Burning Rubber on the GX4000 and Amstrad CPC Plus been playing Super Hang-On and borrowed some of the look at the trees, look at how the circuit twists and turns, and the bike crashes as well. And also some of the cornering graphics. It is Burning Rubber a kind of car homage to Super Hang-On. 1990, okay, the Mega Drive version would have been out, but the guys at Ocean may have been playing the arcade version and just kind of thought, hey, that looks quite nice, we'll borrow it. And if you like this kind of thing, there is ChinnyVision 2 linked in the description below. ChinnyVision 2 has more rough and ready videos and also features Chinny Sound, the occasional feature I do where I interview someone in audio only, just kind of have a general chinwag with them. And if you want exclusives and previews, we of course have our Patreon, which is open to anyone for just $1. So Asia level on the ST. Colour change. Nice to see a gradient like that on the ST as well, actually. You might think a gradient like that looks more kind of Amiga-ish until you hear the sound on this, which is dreadful. Just about getting away with the curb there. It is, however, for all the speed, quite jerky. But it's quite nice to have the smaller bikes on the screen compared to those 8-bit versions. There is a PC version of this by Data East. It's completely different to the UK versions in terms of coding team, so I'm not going to look at that because I've just put the PC away from a load of other capture and don't really want to get it all out again. Oh, it's the music again. And this is the America stage. So we're now on to goodness knows 10, 12 stages, something like that. And the cornering makes the bikes just suddenly appear in front of you. It's not very nice at all. And why green on the side of the road? Wouldn't you have white? It's strange. Back on the Amiga, a little bit of sampled audio. And we head off on the America level. A lot more street furniture on these later stages or later parts of the game, so you really have to stay away from the edges. And again, the face on the signs there. Remember in Burning Rubber how they have the coders, digitised faces go past. And those lamps. Am I reading too much into this? I don't know, yeah, it's weird, isn't it? Back on the Mega Drive, this is the America stage. It's just such a step up here. It's not arcade perfect on the Mega Drive by any means, but you'd have been well happy with this game. It's a very decent port, so much better. I mean, it's a port of the quality of Afterburner, which managed to distill the arcade version into the Mega Drive. And it is more jerky, it's less refined, but it's still, it's got it. Long corner. And the bike handling is just, aside from the joypad complaints of being on digital, again, you feel it coming across from those home micro versions. It just handles better. There's an awful lot of feathering of the controls. And wow, that does look like a Burning Rubber colour scheme now. I'm imagining it, aren't I? I am imagining it, surely. Not speaking of Burning Rubber colour schemes, back on the Spectrum, where there's no 128K in-game sound. Instead, all you get is 48K farting noises, which get on your nerves pretty quickly. Amstrad version does have AY sound. Why is there just not a splash more colour in here? I mean, WC Le Mans works in the 4-colour mode, and it's okay, it looks a bit dank, but it still managed to look fairly attractive and has detailed graphics. It's just not very nice on the Amstrad. Let's try the Expert level here on the Mega Drive. It's either Paris or Blackpool. And again, a lot of street furniture to watch out for on this, the hardest of the courses, Europe. And you need to really watch it. Well, don't use the turbo very carefully on corners because you just straighten up and end up flying off. Oh, this is going to end badly. Luckily, the collision detection on the Mega Drive is spot on. You can just brush past the other bikes, which you can't really do on those 8-bit versions. It's going to end badly. I am going too far. Too fast. This is more luck than judgment so far. Whoa! Death by street furniture in Paris. Who'd have thought it? Now, the Mega Drive version has original mode as well as arcade, in which you do time trials and win money and keep upgrading your bike. So here we are on the main screen here. That music sounds familiar on the upgrade screen. So you start off with a really bad bike. It's a bit like Andy Elston from your Sinclair's Crap Bike Simulator, because your start bike is really slow. It looks the same, and it's quite a jump coming over from arcade mode because the bike accelerates really slowly and it handles really badly. You keep doing these time trials and you will be able to upgrade your bike and mechanic and so on to get the fastest bike. But yeah, it's really, the bike doesn't corner, it doesn't, yeah. It's pretty rubbish. Yes, I am cheating now. I've got the best of everything. $24,000 tyres, $14,000 oil, everything, the best mechanic. And I'm sponsored by a computer games company. So let's see how it handles differently. And my time trial is now 3 stages over the most difficult course available. Bike accelerates faster. Whoa, yeah, it's very twitchy, very twitchy. Oh, this is quite difficult to get used to. Oh, going badly. And the original mode basically is to keep on winning time trials, upgrading your bike, and eventually you will win the game whilst accruing money. And there's a password system as well, which in my case allows me to cheat, and in your case allows you to save your gameplay between stages. Well, there's quite a lot of letters involved. Super Hang-On sometimes plays second fiddle to Space Harrier, Outrun and Afterburner of games from Sega from this era. On the Mega Drive, the port is up there with Afterburner. Putting it alongside the arcade version seems slightly unfair, but it actually, when you get into playing it and you're concentrating it, it feels authentic, and that's the main thing, and it's fun as well. In the original mode, the time trials really add something to the game. Home computer versions, well, the ST and Amiga versions are tolerable as long as you turn the control onto the most sensitive settings. Unfortunately, it doesn't have the large sprites of the Mega Drive version, and if your mate had this on the Mega Drive, then you'd spent £25 on your ST and Amiga version. You might feel just a little bit embarrassed. The Spectrum version is rated incredibly highly. Stuart Campbell himself from Your Sinclair put this quite high up in his top 100 games of all time listing. The problem is, I can't agree with him. Sure, aesthetically, it's brilliant, and the initial impression of speed is absolutely fantastic, but delve into it, it's a deeply unfair and difficult game. Collision detection is shoddy. You need to give the other bikes an incredibly wide berth to get past, let alone should you slow down by touching the side of the track, upon which point you'll be hit from behind by 5 other bikers, rendering your game basically over. It's interesting, some of the CPC magazines in France didn't rate the CPC version at all, despite the fact it's pretty much a direct port of the Spectrum version, okay, with uglier graphics and slowed down. C64 version, well, what can I say? It's yet another poor C64 racing game. I actually can't get cross with it because I'm just still too cross with the Spectrum version being so frustrating and trying time and time again, even on the most sensitive joystick settings, to complete the same stages. Obviously today you can play this game in MAME, and you really should, but if you've got a Mega Drive, I suggest you give this one a go, because the time trial mode actually adds a whole new dimension to what is actually a very good port of the game on the Mega Drive.